Hey, folks, this clip is brought to you by Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey from Lockstill Distillery. Make your own luck, just like Tennessee football's fast paced Rattle and Snap offense with Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey. Hello, folks, and welcome to the A to Z Sports Big Orange Podcast. I am Charlie Burris. With me, as always, is the great Zach Reagan. Wherever you listen throughout the world, we thank you so much for listening to us. Zach and I talk everything Vols every week around the Big Orange Podcast. If that's something you want to listen to on the reg, go over to the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed on Apple and Spotify. When you get there, rate, review, but most importantly, subscribe, because if you do subscribe, you won't miss our shows when we drop them on Mondays. Speaking of Mondays, me and Zach both had ridiculous schedules this week, and it is not Monday, it is Wednesday. But we try to do them on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and when we do that, or anytime we do the show, like at 8:30 p.m. on Wednesday now, you can be a part of the show by going to the A to Z Sports Nashville YouTube channel, hitting that subscribe button, hitting the notification bell, and then you can watch, comment. We love responding to the comments, hanging out with everybody here. So come be a part of the show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, A to Z Sports Nashville. At Zach TNT, at Charlie_Burris, at A to Z Sports, and Facebook.com/A to Z Sports, A to Z Sports.com for everything that Zach writes on the internet. We're a little time crunch tonight because of the start time. Buck Rising has to come on here in just a little bit. But honestly, he did bring me on his show when he had the opportunity. So why would we give him a spot? And maybe we'll just go really long. Zach, I do have to say, I know you're a Mets fan, and that's a tough life. Let's be honest, if you know anything that happened to baseball this year. But my Rangers, holy cow! Which I'm very much an outsider here. My whole side of my family's from Texas. I used to go to Rangers games as a kid. That's why I'm a Rangers fan. I think I've said it on here before. They're just clearing right through, playing in the ALCS. Here we come, but probably gonna have to play the Astros. Now, the Braves, as we live and breathe right now, aren't doing so hot. And I know a lot of Tennessee fans are Braves fans. Have you given up on baseball? Is it you just don't watch it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been football season since since probably about late May for me, being a Mets fan. So yeah, I know the Braves had a tough one tonight, but yeah, I wouldn't count that team out. They're pretty resilient. So it's been a good series just as a baseball fan. That game the other night was one of the best endings I've ever seen. So being able to watch it stress free was a fun experience.
Yeah, I love that. That I'm sure that Braves fans were pulling their hair out, but yeah, it was exciting if you don't have a dog in the fight. But tonight, obviously, Texas A&M, we're going to talk about it. Tennessee set to play the Aggies inside Neyland Stadium this coming Saturday. And we're going to just break it all down. Also talk about the bye week. Also talk about a little bit of recruiting, make our predictions for the game, and just discuss it all. It's going to be pretty laid back. As I said, it's going to have to be a little bit shorter than usual because we got to respect our boy Buck. But let's just get right to it. Right after I tell you about our first great sponsor, and that is Farm Bureau Health Plans. Farm Bureau Health Plans have been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years. Much has changed in Tennessee over the years, but some has stayed the same. Farm Bureau Health Plans has always valued personal relationships, especially when it comes to good health and good service. Plan on Farm Bureau Health Plans for health, dental, and vision. For better coverage, better rates, and better service, go to fbhp.com/ATOZ or walk into one of their 200-plus locations across the state. That is fbhp.com/ATOZ. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Thanks to them for supporting the show. I guess we just right off the top, Jason says, Charlie and Zach, what's good? We're doing all right. Thanks for tuning in. Jason JL says, GBO, go big. Orange. Steven, he says, I'm already pissing Texas A&M fans off by wearing Vols gear in Houston. And Nug says, why is y'all schedule all wonky? And why was that Austin dude doing the post-game show the last game? That's a great question. I got a new day job, and that has thrown a big old wrench into everything. Used to have one that was a little more laid back. That's really the shortest explanation. But regardless, thank you to everybody who's tuning in, already dropping in with comments. Let's talk about the bye week. All right, we talked about the bye week. That's pretty much all there is to say about what happened. Zach, I mean, you had to write stuff as that is your day job. What did you think about what happened while Tennessee didn't have a game last week?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it went about as well as it could have gone for Tennessee. There was no real drama that came out, and it seemed like everybody got to kind of relax for a little bit. Some players went home. The biggest thing was just getting healthy. I mean, it was a perfectly timed bye week for Tennessee. It really couldn't have come at a better time because you saw in that South Carolina game, it felt like every other play somebody was down, somebody was getting banged up. You've already played. It's kind of sad to think about. You've already played 5 games, almost half the season in the first month. In the whole month of September, you've played the majority of your schedule or half of your schedule almost. That's a lot of wear and tear on those guys. So to get them healthy, to get Cooper Mays, out of that game healthy, he played all but 4 snaps, all but the final series. He said he was hurting after that. He was after going through what he went through, which we found out, after the fact was a lot more intense than what we previously realized. So to get him healthy, because obviously he's going to be super important in this game against A&M and their defensive front, which we'll talk about later. That's big. Hopefully getting some of these other guys back in healthy. Obviously not everybody's going to be back. Keenan Peely still going to be out a little bit while longer, which I went back today when somebody asked Josh Heupel about Keenan Peely during the SEC coaches teleconference where he speaks every Wednesday. He said, he's not going to be ready for this game. So I kind of went back because I couldn't remember exactly what Heupel said about Peely when the injury happened during the Virginia game. But it was typical Heupel speed when it comes to injuries. He said, hey, he's going to be out a couple of weeks. Well, it's been a month now, and it does look like he's, going to be back this week against A&M. Who knows, for the Alabama game, that might even be a little quick. Kind of feels like Cedric Tillman last year when we kept thinking we were going to see him, and even Cooper Mays earlier this season. But he's been with the team. He's a guy that if you can get him back late in the season with the depth that they've built at linebacker now, and some of these true freshman linebackers like Arian Carter and Jeremiah Thielander, who were on the field for very important plays in that South Carolina game in the third quarter.
Yeah.
You're going to have one of the deepest linebacker rooms in the conference, and that's pretty exciting. It's been a couple years ago, we were paranoid about something happening to like Jeremy Banks or some of these linebackers because they just didn't have depth, and pretty quickly they've been able to build that. So
few things go better with a Tennessee sports victory than an awesome whiskey. And actually, me and Jonathan Crompton had a drink of whiskey during the postgame show of every football win this past season. And more specifically, we had Rattle and Snap Tennessee Select Straight Whiskey. You can see it right there behind me. Log Still Distillery has released a new Tennessee whiskey product line called Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey, named after a long-forgotten game of chance. Rattle and Snap is a whiskey for those who make their own luck. There's a 4-year and an 8-year version of Rattle and Snap whiskey. And actually, this one behind me is the 4-year version right here. It's perfect for making your favorite whiskey cocktails or just drinking neat. It's really great stuff. And I mean, you can see it there. The bottle looks great too. You can find Rattle and Snap right now in stores across Tennessee. And Rattle and Snap is also available in Kentucky, Indiana, and Mississippi. So run, don't walk to get yourself some Rattle and Snap whiskey. And follow Rattle and Snap on Instagram at Rattle and Snap Whiskey. That is Rattle and Snap Tennessee Select Straight Whiskey.
Getting healthy out of the bye week, that's really been the biggest thing. And Josh Heupel, traditionally, his teams are very good after the bye week. I can't remember the exact record, but I think he's only lost a game or two as a head coach coming out of a bye week. So that tells you that he knows how to prepare a team to come out of the bye week. Sometimes teams come out flat after the bye, but that doesn't seem to be a problem with Tennessee under Heupel. So, it was a really good spot for that bye week to fall.
Am I wrong? I think the Alabama game last year was after bye week.
I think so because they beat or was it right after the LSU? It might have been right after LSU. I think the bye week came between Florida and LSU. I'm thinking for some reason.
Okay, maybe. Oh, that I do think that is right. It was one of those, and it just really felt like the game after Tennessee was just really refreshed and came out and played well.
In fact, I think I remember us talking. Yeah, I think I remember us talking about how emotional beating Florida finally kind of for the first time and then having a week off to kind of, or I think maybe it was even, I can't remember how that schedule worked out. I know Akron was in there too. I guess that was before Florida, but it seemed like it came at a good time last year too, where they kind of let themselves calm down after a big emotional win before going into the second half of the season.
it's never a bad thing, and especially right now when you had all these injuries, I just really hope you can get back as many dudes to close to 100% as you can, because it's just the season just wears on you. Now, here's the absolute truth about what's about to happen for Tennessee. This is your entire season. This stretch that's coming up is gonna really speak to who this football team is, and I'm sure they know that. I'm sure they've been talking about it. But you just have Texas A&M, Alabama, Kentucky, Missouri. It ends with Georgia near the end of November, and then Vandy's there too, but it's
It's in
Vandy.
there.
Yeah,
Nice reprieve, I guess.
Vandy is on the schedule like UConn is on the schedule at this point. But this is just a huge stretch. What happens in October, starting this week, is really gonna be what we talk about when it comes to this season. You're gonna talk about, Tennessee beat Texas A&M, Tennessee beat Alabama, Tennessee did this, did that, and what really needs to happen when I think about it is this. Every game's a must win, more or less. You want to win every single game, but this Texas A&M game, because you have to go to Alabama, because you have to go to Kentucky, because you have to go to Missouri, and so far Tennessee hasn't exactly been an incredible team on the road with Josh Heupel. Obviously, the best game in his tenure was against LSU, but then you go to South Carolina last year, blow it to Georgia last year. You don't look too good. They've just struggled in road spots, and so you got to win these ones at home. You have to take advantage, and that's the situation that I think you're in this week. And it all starts with this bye week, with this preparation, with getting healthy. Hopefully, they did. I say I wish we had more to talk about with the bye week, but at the same time, you think back to what always happened with Butch and stuff, dudes getting in trouble, nonsense, falling on helmets. I don't know if that was during a bye week, but it did happen during the season. Just nonsense that would happen with Butch. I don't mind not hearing anything at all. It's kind of nice. The void of information is honestly better than having some absolute BS to deal with where just things are happening off the field that you don't even want to talk about. But anything else with the bye week that you think needs to be touched on before we move on to, we're going to pretty much talk about like the Texas A&M Alabama game next and how that reflects on Tennessee. Power T is already saying here in the comments, A&M will be able to stop the run. It's a huge factor coming up. But anything else with the bye week, Zach?
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know. It feels interesting that they were able to kind of sit back and watch that A&M game as we were able to, since they were off, and watch the TV copy of it and kind of pick up on some things. I know they're watching their all 22, their game planning. They're trying to pick up every little thing that these teams do. But I do think there is something to kind of being able to watch that game, hearing the crowd, seeing how A&M reacts to stuff, seeing how Alabama reacts to stuff that maybe you don't pick up on that coach's copy of the film. Does that provide an advantage? It's probably negligible at best, but I do think it puts them kind of in a different spot than A&M and Alabama, where they didn't get that luxury to kind of sit back and watch college football on Saturday. They didn't get the luxury of getting healthy through the bye week. Whatever Texas A&M dealt with last weekend injury wise, it's going to carry right over into Saturday. They don't get that chance. So I do think it gives Tennessee some advantage there as far as rest and all that. And, maybe that shows up on the field Saturday afternoon. I certainly hope it does.
I do too, because as I'm saying, you're setting the tone for this October stretch. Man alive, this October stretch is really going to define what this season is all about. Now that the Florida game has passed and you didn't show up for that one, this is where you have to make your money. The South Carolina game was a revenge spot. Mm-hmm. That was nice. You accomplished everything you wanted to there. You more or less blew them out on your home field, and that's great. But now I think the rubber really meets the road.
And it's an opportunity to really send Texas A&M into a tailspin with Jimbo Fisher.
That's true.
He's kind of been treading water. The big buyouts helped, but he's never lived up to the expectations with these impressive recruiting classes. And you do want to send them into that tailspin because guys hit the transfer portal. Top recruits considering Texas A&M, well, all of a sudden maybe they're considering somewhere else. And it doesn't mean they'll land at Tennessee, but the more you disperse that talent, it works out better for the competition in the SEC. And A&M is not a direct rival really with Tennessee, but with the way the conference is moving and getting rid of divisions, you want a weaker Texas A&M. You want everybody else to be as weak as possible, really. I mean, that's kind of, you got to beat them either way, but it certainly helps if they're not as strong as they would be. So they had that chance against Florida, and that was different because it was on the road with Billy Napier, who's still facing a lot of those questions from Florida fans. But you really don't want to pass up this opportunity with it being a home game to just kind of kick Texas A&M down another notch, make them really consider some coaching changes. And there's no sure things out there. You know, there's not some, even like when Tennessee kind of got lucky hiring Josh Heupel, there were no real sure things out there. There was no consensus. This is the guy, and Jimbo was supposed to be that for Texas A&M. So if you can send them back to square one, I mean, it's got to be better for Tennessee and everybody else in the SEC, really.
I mean, to your point, Jason says if we smoke A&M, we should 100%. Go after Walter Nolan, of course, a local player that ended up going to A&M. He was massively, highly sought after, 5-star guy, without a doubt.
I'm not sure I have the energy to follow a transfer saga with that guy, though. He still posts cryptic like stuff on his social media to this day, and I imagine if he did somehow end up at Tennessee, he'd still be dealing with a lot of that. But still, I take him still.
Absolutely. I do remember he had a little bit of that diva in him. I do remember that during his recruiting process, as a lot of those guys do. And as I would if I was, a 5-star recruit that everybody wanted to have on their team. But